Hey guys, how are you? Oh, it's a Saturday evening and something kind of triggered me into a creative state. And that something was talking to a prospective new trader. No, not me. My main guy, Brett, who handles most of my calls for prospective new folk, had a chat with a guy. And it triggered me, one of the things he said, and I'm taking you on a bit of a roundabout journey. You might be wondering, what the hell is he doing dressed up as a Power Ranger there with the sun shining off his shaven dome like that? Well, that's me and my main homeboy Grant that I do adventure bike riding with. That was a couple of years ago on a trip that we do. And this whole question and this whole story of the call brought me back. It took me through a run through my life, lessons that I've learned. I've got a couple of miles under the belt, like that BMW GS now in terms of my life, and there were a number of items that got triggered by the same concept that I think many people fall foul of, and I want to discuss it, and I'm going to discuss it the best way I have. I'm a storyteller at heart, and I only feel aligned or passionate about stories that I can properly relate to. So I'm going to give you stories that I know, and those are stories of events in my life where lessons came through that would answer this guy's question. So I'm listening to a recording of one of my representatives representing me, my program, talking to someone who's contemplating coming on, and the same kind of query that comes up. What was that query? Well, let me tell you what it was. It's, hey, I've kind of only got the program costs, say, 10 grand, and I've only got about 12 or not even 10 grand itself to start. That would take all my capital, all my trading capital. That's the problem I have for that. By the way, we have cheaper self-study programs, etc., but let's not get into that. So the dilemma, guys, thing is he likes the message, he likes what we're doing, but the concept of spending to learn and spending a substantial sum to learn. And I was thinking about my journey in becoming a trader and all my experiences through my life, and it brought up, you know, things like my dad who's passed away and all sorts of things, journeys on motorcycling. And I'm going to take you on a little bit of a journey in terms of this. I was in a boarding school, and in South Africa boarding schools are pretty hardcore. And in fact, South African schools generally, there was no way you got away without doing sport. It was obligatory, and you had to have 2 sports per term. So as the season changed, you had to be 2 sports a term. When I was in that Pretoria boarding school, I was full board. I didn't even know wasn't too far away from home. My parents wanted to do a good job of seeing the back of me for a while. So I only went home for full term holidays, and we had 2 sports a term. And a lot of my mates, one of them really good swimmer, were doing swimming. Now, I'd learned very early in SA, like many people in South Africa where there's pools aplenty, I was thrown in the pool and I could literally get to the side. Before I could walk, I could bob to the surface, float on my back and get to the side as a baby. But when it came to stroke swimming, there was no interest to taking me any further when I was essentially an infant, before even being a year old. So I wasn't a stroke swimmer. I hadn't known how to do it, and here was the swimming team with all these guys in stroke swimming. But one thing I did have was my father, who was an engineer, a very good engineer, and he was an analyzer, and he was a process driven person, and he understood mechanics, engineering, energy right down to the T. And he had this kind of really insightful and persistent manner of sharing all his learning. So I started swimming, it was before the season hotted up, so it was pre all the galas and the competition, and I was largely hopeless. I'm still in touch Facebook with the teaching coach at the time, but everyone had got out the other side, and he'd started them on the next lap. So they would do 25-meter sprints. We'd first start with 200 meters, we'd do 4 of those, then we'd do 8 100 meters, then we'd do 10 50 meters near to sprints, and then we'd finish with quite a few single length sprints. and I would still be paddling, and they'd got bored awaiting me, and they started the next length. And we'd have 25 lanes, sometimes 3 guys to a lane, and I was literally coming along. There was no hope of making the team at any point, but I was participating. I was kind of like the useless one, and there were 4 guys that were already established: the backstroker, the breaststroker, the freestyler, and the butterfly guy. And they were also the 4 fastest in freestyle that did the freestyle relay and all of this. In speaking to my father, and you're going to wonder, hell, he's taking me a long way around there. Where does this come in with trading? Be patient on this, because this is about narrative and it's about learning. A couple of things he instilled in me. He used to say to me, Francis, any splash, any sign where you're displacing water out in the air is wasted energy. In other words, those that kick to splash are wasting energy. It's all about propulsion. You need the water to be pushed backwards to drive you forward, essentially. And you need to pull it backwards, and you need to do it in the slipperiest possible way as possible. And then he told me about symmetry. You want to learn as quick as possible to breathe from both sides, because while I was swimming, I would actually go in a figure of 8 like this, because I was exhausted, always breathing the same side, and the hips and the spine would all swivel like this as I leant to look at the stars. Swimming, you've got to minimize that, and you've got to learn to do it both sides. You've got to develop symmetry so that your oar, that amount you tip while you're moving through the water, is more consistent. This guy was giving me a lesson in aerodynamics for water, in energy and everything else. And actually the amazing thing is, we all broke up school after that pre-warning, and as soon as we came back in the new season, it was now getting serious for the season. I'd improved well enough to actually be the 4th freestyler. I was the 4th fastest freestyler, and I kind of did backstroke because no one was that keen on it, and I did it really well. But I used to have a rival, and he was a bigger, stronger guy than me. He was in the day part of the school. His name was Chad Walters, and he was within a touch as quick as me over 1 length. But what happened is, when we used to do 100 meters, which was 4 lengths essentially, the fact that I had developed a super slippery style, and I'm convinced this guy he was tougher, stronger, more broad-shouldered, and I only just beat him, and I was doing all the training, and he was kind of not so committed to swimming, and he kind of was getting roped in and was almost as quick as me on the 1 length. But what ended up happening when we had the gala, the main blue ribbon event for backstroke, was a 100 meter. And the fact that I had processed, the fact that I continually as a boarder had nowhere else to go but had to swim, wanted to be with my mates, got exhausted with them, got chased up and down that pool with them, meant that I was as fit as a fiddle for my skinny self. I'd focused on process, particularly when tired. I'd focused on symmetry. I'd focused on angles. The guy who was that fast that could almost beat me to literally a touch, I just pipped him over a 1 meter length. In the gala on the 100 meter event, I beat him by a full length. Now, the whole concept of this is not to aggrandize myself as a swimmer. This was school level stuff. I later qualified for minor provincial times, but I never got to be even a provincial swimmer. So don't get excited. I'm not trying to big up my sporting prowess in this late age of the way gone down years. The point was, I kept showing up, and I was always training. He was told, he pushed me, he should show up and we should have a showdown. And then there was the teacher had the 2 of us swim off with the rest of the school watching for who would be the backstroker. And I beat him both in the length and in the 100 meter. But he had the talent. He had the power and the talent, but he splashed like hell. He had no process. He didn't show up for the training because he was a day bug. He could go home rather than school. I'm convinced that he was probably the more talented swimmer than me. But the difference was, my pride was hurt. I was being challenged. I wanted to hold on to what I was going. I wanted to go on tour with my friends. I was training, and I was fitter, and I was able to win out that contest. Later years, I actually became the fastest freestyler in there, just by continuing to execute, by continuing to show up as someone who had no stroke or form. But the key thing is, I needed a process, I needed learning, and I needed guidance as to what I should be correcting. So every time I was swimming, when we did warm-ups or the 300 meters, I was always thinking of something. What am I doing? Am I stretching the farther head with the pull and pulling through? Am I maintaining a good rhythm kick? Am I keeping myself level? Did I dip too deep there? One of the things that helped me beat this guy by length over a 4-length race, which is a 4x25 race in the backstroke, is I learned how to do a backstroke tumble turn. It's a gimme when you can push off the wall. And it's a huge bonus. And all I did is I kept pestering people to show me how to do it. And then I kept trying it until I got quicker, faster, and better. Till the point is I used to take half a meter to sometimes a meter plus off everyone on every single turn. This is like trading. This is like stacking. Lots of minor little edges up. Lots of minor little edges up. All the goddamn time, so that you get an edge over people that may already be potentially more talented than you, but don't have the same mental approach. And with that, I got as far as eventually having a very onerous thing. Mainly only our matric boys got to wear a special tie if they played first team rugby. There was 1 or 2 exceptions where you could also get a first team tie. If you qualified for provincial times, and we were in a very competitive province, Northern Transvaal, that included Pretoria, a lot of Afrikaans farm boys, really committed, healthy, outdoor kids. And I got the benefit of that status before I was in my matric year to wear that tie. Because of a commitment to a process, I ended up getting status, accolades, and recognition for diligence and effort. Because I had to. I decided I wanted to go into I wanted to be with my mates, and I wanted to get better at something I'd committed to, and I started to enjoy it as I felt the progress. This is what you need to be thinking about with your trading. This is what you needed to be thinking about with your trading. Had I not got the advice, had I not got the guidance, had I not known where to focus to improve, I would have continued to repeat what I was doing ad nauseum. In other words, a man with a plan or a process will beat the genius. Every time. Hear me say that again to you. A man with a process and a plan will beat the genius, the talent. The talent will lose to the person who keeps showing up, keeps focusing on what needs to be fixed, and is taught and shown where those key points are, so that he continually makes finer adjustments, so that he picks up those minute edges, a better dive, not going so deep, a longer pull, a faster, snappier push off the wall with a backstroke tumble turn. Is the difference between winning, being early to the trade and having a huge RR, and ending up one of the guys that are 5% later and are chasing a pump, and the RRR is already spoiled. This is the difference through the minor little edges that you build. And the key part to that is the guidance. The guidance and the key points on where to do. And I had a great swimming coach. I had people around me. I had my, God rest his soul, father, who was absolutely analytical to his very last breath, and incredibly smart, giving me the guidance. Funny little joke on that. I went to go face, we had a gala in Free State where all the CBC, the Christian Brothers College boarding schools that I was part of at one point, and no, I wasn't a Catholic, but I was roped into that one because that's where they were. We had this big gala in Orange Free State. And I had to head out in that direction, and we swam that gala that evening, and it was hot. It was summer. South Africa's hot. We had these old school buses. You drank colas and crap unless you packed really good food, and it was a long old drive to get down to Welkom, which was where they were, and waiting for me was a provincial Orange Free State backstroker, and he was also in the freestyle relay, and we kind of got jet lagged with the bus journey. My dad was so specific about how he coached me. He told me which seat to sit on in the bus. He calculated what road we'd be on and what time we would be there, so that he knew what side the sun would be. And he says the sun drains your energy and it's going to be hot. So you're going to be in the shade most of the time here. You're going to be less shaken up of the bus if you're between the front and the back axle, and you want to be on the aisle, not the window seat. A, for the sun, and B, also for the ore in the wheels. This is the detail that the man thought about. He pinpointed the seat I should sit in. so that I could have the most comfortable ride in that journey and be as fresh as possible to compete against this guy. That's just a degree of how far and how badly and how much guidance you truly can take. Do you think about what seat on the bus for your best possible journey so that you can be competitive in an event? Potentially in trading, you can do that too. You need to think about the minutia of the detail, and you need that benefit of someone to tell you where that detail exists. So let's fast forward a little bit, and I'll talk to you about the motorbikes, because that's what you're seeing here. Thanks to a great mate, we rode when we were kids, but we just jumped on and went and self-taught all of this nonsense. And I kind of, after a massive break, jumped on the GS and managed to survive going through Zimbabwe, Botswana, and all of this. These are adventure bikes, and then I decided, no, I really enjoyed that, and I want to do light enduro, nothing like motocross and being too much of a star, but I wanted a lighter bike. These guys weigh 256 kilos, these GSs. Real comfortable, but when you start to get on the slightly more challenging track, they can be a little bit of a handful. So I thankfully I'm fortunate enough to have been able to procure for myself. There's just so that you guys get a feel for what this journey out. I want to get another theme through while I'm talking to you. That's also about lifestyle. I'm going to give you multiple themes in this video. It's maybe going to be hopefully not too many to take you off path, but you've got to have a lifestyle, and you've got to breathe in, and you can't sit on screens, 9 screens, 14 hours a day, Monday through Friday, and trade crypto across the weekend as well. You need family, you need to get away, you need to be doing this stuff. That means you need a strategy that allows you to get downtime, and you can't be 100% engaged. It's a marathon, not a sprint. You need to be taking pictures like this, which this is the 3 bikes parked outside the log cabin. That's an incredible butte, somewhere between Orange Free State and Johannesburg, after driving all the way up from the Cape Winelands to South Africa roads on with a great gang of pals that I really, really miss. That was not, however, the picture I was going to show you. So I was lucky enough to get myself an Enduro, got a Husky 500. All the other guys drive KTMs. I don't want to look like I work for EasyJet, so in I went and I got myself a Husky. And the first thing I did when it arrived, I put on all my protective kit, and the only thing I didn't have were gloves. So I put on these gardening gloves. They were luminous green. Why? Because they matched the bike. They matched the bike. First ride, we got some very deep dirt roads. We'd had some big rain. I poodled off down the road, and I forgot when I walked it, because at least I had walked it once, how steep it was. And I'm brand new on the bike. It was slightly high set on suspension. I hadn't yet got the pedal location perfect for the back brakes, and I'm perched up high, and it straight away goes into a very deep ruts that are pulling me to the side, and I end up in the early part of the rut, and I know if I try to turn out of it, I'm going to be stuck. I end up riding down the rut, and it's getting deeper, and there's rocks in the bottom, and I'm getting shaken, and I'm not more than 500 meters on my inaugural ride on this motorcycle, and end up having right at the bottom what I'd call a very low speed put down, a dump to the side, and I topple over. Unfortunately for me, despite low speed, no damage, just a couple of scratches on the plastic on the bike, but I didn't have the correct gloves. Fist out into a rock, and effectively I've done some damage to my knuckle. This was better part of going for almost a year ago. I wake up, this hand is still buzzing. This finger is still sore. Anytime I knock it in any way, it still hurts. Why is this even relevant for trading? Why is this man telling me this, you must be thinking? Because the key thing is, I was underprepared, I was under-equipped, I was excited, adrenally stimulated. I got my new bike, I need to put it on dirt. Thankfully for me, the dirt's right outside my house. I ride right out across the road and onto it. And I wanted to do it straight away. I had only most of the kit, and I was missing one core component, and that's the component I needed. I didn't have the knuckle protection. In other words, I got so excited. How many times have you funded a trading account and you got all your stuff together, and you got your charting platform, and you got this and you got that, and now it's just about getting in there and trading, and you go straight into it? So this story, instead of being like a swimming hero that improves, I was the idiot. I was straight in there. I didn't get fully prepped with the height, the settings. I jumped on the bike, I could clearly get it started. I'd been waiting for it for a long time, waiting to get going. It was all straight in, leap in, and I took a tumble. I took this picture after the tumble, by the way, so I was broadly fine. It was literally at the bottom of the rut, a small little drop, but I fell badly, and I fell and I punched a rock, and it's still with me today. And can I tell you, a number of times that I've gone riding after that event, I would go into a really steep situation and I would freeze up with fear. So not only do I have scar tissue somewhere and inflammation still in this knuckle hand from that one mistaken fall, I have scar tissue in my brain, or I had. I think I've largely but not entirely reduced the inflammation in the brain, but I used to come up over obstacles and I would freeze up and I'd start doing all the wrong things. Which brings me to the motorbike analogy. I wanted my partner to ride with me, and so she doesn't even drive with gears on a car. She's an automatic girl, so she clearly needed a lesson, and I didn't want to do anything too strenuous for her, but I wanted her to at least be able to ride on an off-road, flat, simple two-tracker, no ramps, no heavy rocks, no major angles, just have a poodle with me every now and then. So I paid for her to have a lesson. So I thought, what the hell, I'm got to go with her. I'll take a lesson too. I'll take a lesson too. And this is from a proud man who thinks he knows how to ride bikes. What the hell, I'll take a lesson too. So what ends up happening, great guy, where we are, takes us both out for a lesson. This guy changes a whole bunch of stuff about what I'm doing, and it feels weird and awkward. He's saying, man, you've got to sit right forward on the bike. You've mainly got to be standing. You've got to have your elbows out to the side, attack position. And when you are riding, it's tilting. It's the Usain Bolt maneuver, like this. You're tilting. I've never ridden like that. I've just, gone through the motions of riding a bike. I start practicing it with him. I'm getting correction from him. He's also looking mainly after my missus. Who's getting the bulk of his time, but just this alone, and he gets me doing drills, going round and round, leaning forward, boot out. Man, one lesson event I started implementing, because I'm fanatic about improving process. I think we all are once we know how. I started saying, remember the lesson. Every time I was riding afterwards, in the same places, remember the lesson. Suddenly I was cruising. I was feeling more confident. I felt less like I'm perched on top of an elephant ready to topple off. I used to sit down when I was in fear because I thought I want to fall off from a lower place. Of course, all the weight has to go. The best position is when you're standing and the weight is on the pegs. The pegs are low down there. The design of the bikes are low center of gravity. You're actually on a pyramid and you can tip the steering and which way to go, and it's counterintuitive. It feels totally counterintuitive. When you're on an incline like this, which way do you tip? You swing the body weight that side so that you get the traction on the inside line of the wheel, maintain the weight. It changed phenomenally. One lesson. I want to go but to have more, and they got cancelled. We didn't have it. I'm telling you now, I had one lesson with somebody who knows. I enjoy my riding 3 times more. I enjoy my riding 3 times more. I feel more confident, and I've gone a long way to take that mental freeze out when I see something that looks too challenging and I bottle it. After that wipe, a couple of times I go to something and I say, I know the bike can handle it. I know I should be able to do it, but I just haven't got the nerve, and I'd bottle it and I'd feel a coward. After this, doing things, having confidence. But I started by following him. He said, follow my leader now. And he started going up embankments, and I was thinking, Jesus, I was looking at that. Christ, am I really going up that? And I just followed. I just said, okay, go. And I followed him in his line. Up I went, up the bike came the other side, followed the drills, watched what he was doing, kept his voice talking in my head, repeating, do this, self-talk all the time. Remember the drill. What are you doing? Whoop, you're starting to bottle it up. No, go back to drill. Go back to process. On I went. Man, I can't even tell you. I'm still a crap motorbike rider, but I enjoy my motorbike riding so much more, and I haven't fallen off since. And the average speed I've been going is higher, the enjoyment is higher. Not that you have to go faster to be better or to have greater enjoyment. I feel more competent, I feel more confident. One single lesson on a motorcycle, guys, and that's what it did for me. And I wasn't even supposed to have it. Why? Because I don't need that. I don't need to give some guy teaching me to trade 10 grand. That means I've got no money to trade. Well, that means I've only got 2 grand. Well, go and blow that 10 grand in wipeouts and then come back with your naught or refund your 10 grand and do it again and again and again and keep pattern repeating. Because when I was riding that BMGS, I was making similar mistakes, sometimes freezing up, not knowing which way to put the body position and just kind of winging it. And then in the key moments, sometimes clenching up, which is sometimes one of the worst things you can do. There's lots you do by the position of your body weight that supports the traction and the design of the system that's under you. But I was doing mainly, and this is the key thing, your knee-jerk reactions in fear and greed are invariably diametrically opposed to what you should be doing. In other words, when you have no method, you revert to emotions, fear, and greed, and they are directly and absolutely the wrong things for you. And until you invest in teaching or learning for yourself to not do those things and what the correct things are to do, and even have someone you can follow, like I did, because this is how he taught me. He said, follow me. And he started going up mine slumps, muddy, wet, everything, tall, high. I thought the bike's not going to make that. I dropped cogs, I revved, it kept going, it kept pulling. I was hoping, I was leaning forward, kept watching what he was doing, monkey see, monkey do. And you know what? I kept making it out the other side. I didn't fall over in the lesson. And this is a concept that people don't get. And this is what this guy was asking in this call with Brett. But if I give this amount of money, if I invest X, it's X less capital that I have. This is not a pitch for my training. This is not some clever, all I'm saying is invest in your learning anywhere. If the people seem right, if they seem confident and everything passes the smells test, please invest in your learning. Let me tell you, in getting to developing HVF method, and this is now going to transition to another key point, the stories. I went to Neeson of Candlestick Charts course. I went to his courses. I went to the guy behind Gartley's and Harmonics course. I went to Larry Williams and Bordy's software, Bordy's course, everything. Let me tell you, none of them were HVF method. I took something away from every single one of them that led me to be where I am today. Every single penny that I spent, I wouldn't say I was ripped off. I wouldn't say I learned nothing. They were value, value, value for me. And I didn't end up trading any of them. And all of them were just programs that were weekends or once-offs. There was no follow-through. There was no community. There was no interest in the outcome of that trader beyond once they delivered. They played it safe. You guys are probably going to fail, but hey, we're going to deliver a certain amount of theory. Here it is. Here it's done. Here's the software if you want to buy it. Those that did have. Here's the book. Here's the course. Pump you up, and then off you go. You're out back in the wilderness on your own. So you got to ride behind the rider just for that lesson, and then you ride on your own. Imagine you could ride your bike always with a pack of mates that were at a higher standard than you, that you could continue to reinforce your drills, that you could continue to follow for those rare alone moments that don't involve when you're not around your community. Imagine you had process. Imagine you got told what is the correct thing to do, where your focus should be. Imagine you had those things. A man with a plan beats a genius without one. A man with a process will beat a genius without a plan. I've made a lot of videos about Brexit. Not only on a 7:1 outline did we call Brexit, but we also said it would be hijacked and no deal would not occur. That's not because we geniuses, clairvoyant or whatever. There was a risk we could be wrong in all those cases, and there still may be even a potential risk. But the key thing is, once you have the understanding of who people are and the process and what they are needing, you realize they don't work for you, it's not in their interests, and it's highly likely that something will occur that will give them what they need, not what you need. This is what I call core understanding. When I did mathematics, I used to be lazy. I never did my homework, but I was good at it. I did the first 1 or 2 just to check for form. Once the teacher gave homework, then I went to, instead of the 20 or 30 questions you had to answer, I went to the last 3, which were usually the most difficult. If I could do them, I was happy. I had process. I just left all the rest out. I can leave the repetition for everybody. Little bit cheeky, little bit lazy. But once I understood process, I knew I had it. Mathematics, it's right or wrong. Get the process, get the understanding of the principle. I will be able to apply it, including in the exam, without the ad nauseum repetition and getting some of them right or wrong or bored. I would just get process. Focus on method, focus on process, and this is the key thing that will bring you home. John DeMartini is someone I admire and who I talk about regularly. He played tennis, and I'm going to refer to this narrative because I love it. So this doesn't involve me or my experience, but I just nailed it, and I just knew it was a true story, and it was like him telling me what I'm telling you about my life. By accidentally doing a lesson and quantum leap improving. And when I didn't take care and when I was underprepared, how I immediately did damage, and I carry scars for that damage today, physically and mentally, because I refused to get my stuff ready and be prepared and to be properly trained. And I stumbled on training, and it was the best gift. I quantum leaped up an entire level on my understanding, on my position in a riding bike. John described having a neighbor who had a tennis court with a girl that was younger than him, about 3 years younger than him. He was about 19 and she was 16, and she needed someone to practice tennis with, so she was going to coaching and getting the whole blah-de-blah. He was a 19-year-old male, she was a 16-year-old girl. He just made sure he wanted to beat her. His goal was tactical and for the day, do not get beat by a girl. She was not interested in whether she beat him or lost to him. There was points, they all mattered, it all counted, they were scoring. She was clearly fixated on process. She was practicing her backhands, her forehands, and everything she was taught. And John, of course, beat her the first day, the second day, the third day, and then after a while, he was finding it harder to beat her, till eventually she was absolutely murdering him every single time, and he stopped wanting to be support to her. He told her the 16-year-old girl humiliated him in the end and was outplaying him. Why? She wasn't focused on getting a winning trade for today. She was focused on getting a winning process and method, to the point of even being set back in her game capital that would sustain her in the long run. Why? She was being coached on process, and she was going to focus on method and process at the expense of winning the game. You can take losses in your trading in the beginning, take them small, trade small, get process and method right, and get your coaching. She was coached, he wasn't. The 16-year-old girl beat the 19-year-old male, and let me tell you, if on any other circumstances, with coaching being equal, John would have seen her off, no problem. The key difference, long-term focus versus short-term gain. What is it you want? Is it about your capital going down when you invest in learning, or are you in for the long-term process of this game? Are you in for a quick hit and it's just about your capital now, and you just want to make a quick $1 million off 1 or 2 trades that are just going to fall when something moons, or in your lap when you take a super oversized risk and you get your Hail Mary lands? Is that your fantasy? Or are you recognizing that this is a marathon, not a sprint? Are you recognizing what the girl that went to a coach recognized? She's here to exercise long-standing successful process that is proven in the battlefield and will sustain you as a competitor, compared to people that will get a ball over at any cost in any way just to ensure winning the point in the here and now. Is it about just a winning trade, or understanding what it takes to be truly long-term sustainably successful in your trading? Decide which two it is, and then invest accordingly. Go straight in with as much money as you can to trade. Good luck. If it's I need instant success, I want winners right from the get-go, or I'm prepared to take a step back in my capital to ensure I go forward with real process that I can implement. Some go forward with real process that they can implement. Some go forward with process that they can implement and don't implement it, and some go forward without even knowing any process that could serve them. So they don't even know what they don't know. At least if you've been taught, you will know where you've strayed. We're all human. We stray from our process. We fall over. We forget our drills. We need to go back to basics. Do you want to be part of a community? Do you see these analogies? I just wanted to share them with you. Some of them are personal. John's is a great story, and it absolutely encaptures my swimming experience. And all of these things flooded to my mind as I hear someone talking to Brett, encapsulating, but do I spend the money? Do I spend the money? And the question I ask back to you is, wherever you are going, first assess that they have real value add to offer you. If it passes the smell test for you, and you already have seen enough that there's something behind it, make the investment. I don't care who it is, whichever group it is. It doesn't have to be with me. This is not a sales pitch. Go and invest. Let me say something else to you. When people really want to quit smoking, they pay smoke enders. I don't think smoke enders does anything very clever to help them finish. They teach them some techniques. They maybe get them to substitute something. There's some real useful information in there. Don't get me wrong. But the point that you decide you're going to invest and spend to go forward is the point you're truly serious. If you're serious about doing something really well, you invest and spend. And I will get on the comments here, yes, of course you would say that you sell courses and you're expensive, and of course you'll say that if you were a successful trader, why would you sell anything? You just lock yourself up in a cave and trade and make millions all the time. I'm going to get all those kind of comments, and I can deal with them all. I know who those kind of people are. If you're a skeptic, be a skeptic, stay a skeptic, leave those comments. I've heard them all before. I've answered most of them already all before. Because I enjoy doing what I do, it makes me aligned. I enjoy seeing people succeed, but I'm giving energy and I expect energy in return. And I've worked hard in developing my experience, and nothing of value that you haven't put your hand in your pocket will you treat of value. So I spent through all those courses safely in today's dollars about $50,000 on trading, from when I was as early as in my early 20s to someone who is over 50 today, and attended some of those courses not more than 10, 15 years ago. In other words, I continued to invest until I was truly satisfied there was nothing really too much new, or that that fundamentals wise changed what I had, and that I knew I had the best that I could have. So I ask you, if I would spend on people that gave me just a weekend of theory, a folder and a file, and some of them a CD-ROM, I'm asking you, are you serious? Do you really want a community? Do you really see the value of following somebody else on your motorbike up that embankment you never thought you could cover? Do you really understand that process beats all genius of the moment? Can you conceptualize that? Then I will say to you, you are ready to trade, and you should invest, and you should invest with whoever that best person may be, because you are upping the game and you are saying to yourself, I want a return on this. I intend to extract full value. This is hurt equity I've sunk in. You are upping your own level of commitment by paying. In the same way the smoker says, I'm done with this filthy habit. I am going to pay to give this a shake. I'm not giving a flaky New Year's resolution that I'm giving up with a first drink with my mates. I am getting done with this. I'm not undoing this. I'm done with blowing up accounts. I'm going to fix it. I'm done with taking 30% losses. Every person I analyze in terms of losses, how much they think they've lost, when I do a retrospective on their P&Ls, they're shocked how much more it is. My suspicion is that that's universal for all people. You have more than paid in losses for not only my course but any other people's courses. If you've been trading 3 to 4 years, in lost profits, in slippage, in lack of technical ability, in lack of community keeping you out of crap trades, you're possibly not made and lost an untold sum. An untold sum. But until you're big enough to say, I'm going to make myself humble and vulnerable and say, these guys are good, I'm going to give them a go, you aren't going to get there. That's my share for you. As I say, from motorbike riding to swimming to focusing on process, and how process will beat the genius. I hope that's interesting to you. That's my story for you tonight. It's a long one. Enjoy it at your own leisure, and good night, and God bless. And if this is of interest to you, go to the website, register, and you can have a call with Brett and you can talk further and you can hear what he's achieved out of that. And with that, I love you and leave you. And thanks for your Saturday night time.